Alright, so what are we doing now? Front end of the car. Just took the radiator out and the thermo fans. Like I said before, the thermo fans are from an AU. Probably should go around the back and film up there, so when I put them back in, I'll film just to show you how good the fit was, that's all. No big deal. I think it's a real secret. People put AU thermos and probably the EL, EF series as well into the old XA, B, C, D, E series of cars. They're pretty easy to mod. So anyway, all that aside, we have a problem, Houston. Bugger, I think is what we're going to say here. Just bugger. So that's not cool. That's not cool at all. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this one yet, except to say the condenser's going to have to come out. Maybe it won't, but I think just for access and the chance of damaging it even more. This is the original condenser, by the way, and it works just fine. Doesn't look the prettiest, but works just fine. Comes complete with wasp nests. Geez, we get a lot of wasps down this way. Anyway, so I'm going to have to cut at least this section all the way and make a right angle. Probably a piece of that that sill I've got might actually get us out of trouble here, and just piggyback it onto this piece here. Don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I think I'll just come up, just cut it out, and don't worry about this lightning hole press that Ford did back in the day. Obviously that's going to have to come out. Just note it's all important to keep your rubber bits for your radiator. So the way the radiator works and the fans work is it creates a negative head of pressure over the radiator, and air that's got lower pressure is cooler. So by creating a vacuum rather than just forcing air over the radiator, the cooling is far more efficient. Look it up yourself anyway. So yeah, having it all sealed is all important. The air gap should be as tight as possible over your radiator and your shroud, which is now outside. Oh bugger it, we'll go and have a look. Should have done that before. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm going to buy a new radiator, so there's the old radiator there. There's a piece of rubber that I cut, again, just to need 5 hands. It's going to look awful on film, but anyway, but you get the idea. Alright, so tucked in there, and then over to the frame of the car. And these are the AU thermo fans. And all they did was miss just that bottom row and a half. Just made up a couple of brackets, good as gold. I can tell you this car used to overheat before I did this, and no worries. It's a Natrad triple core, but the first 20% have actually been blocked off on the back row. You can't see it because the fan's on, because the original fan shroud chunked out and got caught between it and the fan blade. So when it was brand new, so I was pretty happy about that back in the day. But anyway, I'm not going to keep it. You can buy aluminium radiators now for very little money, and considering the engine's going to get a full rebuild, it's pointless. I'm not going to keep that, so I'll dispose of that in time. So getting back to where we were, I need to ring the local mechanic and legally dump the gas. You know, there's a huge fine if you dump aircon gas and you get caught, so not worth the risk. You know, $100 or so to get it evacuated. And look, I'm going to have to remove all this and the TX valve as well, and make sure it's all blanked off properly while the car's going to get painted and all the rest of it. So I had delusions of grandeur, and that's what they were, of tying this out of the way. If I was just doing the engine, sure, but we're not. We're going to paint in here. Well, the painter is, I'm not. So I'm going to pull it all out of the way. What else has happened since I filmed a few weeks ago? Got a quote to do the engine machining. country town, New South Wales. I won't say where or who, but 650 bucks for all the machine work. Very happy with that. I just deliver the block to them. They'll do it within a week. So, and they'll install the cam bearings and the Welsh plugs for me. So that was just a bargain. So I've committed to that one. Trying to think what else that's important to say at the moment. Probably bugger all. So just on more rush repairs is what we're going to do now. Cheers. Righto, suck 'em in, Blue. Just had a mechanic here to suck down the gas. Local guy where I live. Do me a favour, 70 bucks to suck that down. It's a big fine if you let gas out of these things. So we've done that, and it'll save me some money. It actually had 5.5 pound in it. Sorry, 550 grams, I beg your pardon. 550 grams of gas in it. So it's a good system, this thing. Sorry, we've got a problem here at home. One of our supervisor puppies is very, very ill, and we're going to lose him soon. So I'm just not really with it, but this has got to continue. Life goes on. So I'm just going to disconnect all this now, take out the condenser, and then we can get decent access. And that's why I had old mate come and, Shane his name is actually, come and take the gas out of here. But at the end of the day, my pipe dreams of being able to really remove this, take it out of the way with the gas still in, really folly. It was never going to happen. So I was bit the bullet. 70 bucks. It'll probably cost me 120 to re-gas and back it down when we put it back together. So but yes, this cross member, I think I showed before. I can't remember if I have or not. We can't see at the moment. I've got no torch, but that's all right. I'll get to that later. But yep, stuff's gone down. It's not really cool in this house at the moment, and that's all right. We continue on, don't we? Cheers. Yeah. So today we'll start the process of ripping the motor out. Gonna have to get a hand. I'm not strong enough to lift the gearbox out by myself anymore. So I could rip it out as a job lot. I did go and buy. I do have an engine crane, and first time it's going to get used in anger on a car anyway. There she is there. Thank you, super cheap. It was on sale with the engine stand, so I bought the job lot, and I got the leveler from eBay. Gee, that was cheap, 50 bucks. It's never been used in anger. I only used it on the old VF1000 here to put the motor into the frame, so that was a handy bit of kit to have when we did that bike up. So I guess first things first, rip the aircon lines out, pull the ignition off. Storage is an issue, and that's going to be a big issue. So now I've got the shed back together. I've got a piece of real estate to my right there. We'll use that, and we'll crack on. Don't have to get the engine out today, but certainly I'll get all the peripherals off. And another reason, the engine doesn't really need rebuilding in this thing. It's a pretty good donk. But look, I re-ringed it, just re-ringed it, and number 8 cylinder was marginal. It was right on the limit when I did it in a carport back in the day. So I'll go for 20th hour over. There's a machine shop in rural New South Wales that I'm going to use. They've quoted me a good price to machine it, as in bore it, reinstall new cam bearings, chemical dip. What else are we getting done? And they'll probably fit the Welsh plugs for me as well. The Welsh plugs are original in this motor, so they're 40 years old. They owe us nothing. What else? The sway bar, the pins for it, you know, the vertical ones with the bushes. Going to bin that. Found online, you get a whole Super Pro kit. I think about 120 bucks. I'll shop around a bit more, but they're knackered. It's not worth repairing, so I'll toss them in the bin. I think that's about it at the moment. So we'll just crack on and whip out this little baby. All the best. Alright, here's some progress. Where are we at? What are we doing? Ripping the engine out. Couple of tips. When you undo all the wiring, if you're like me and you've got ton of accessories like aircon, and this has got cruise control, you might have spotlights or air horns, or you may have done what I've done here. And I individually broke down into a bus, and I don't like the look of it, but that was all I could find when I did this. And I individually power the headlights. The ignition system is a fairly high draw, particularly when I put the voltage booster on it. So, you know, individual relays for individual fuse, if you will. So it's the supply line, and then, you know, then you got your feeder lines. Talk about relays later, but the point is, you know, label. So, you know, coil negative, for example, ignition power, ice earth, and what I mean by that is ice ignition, blah blah blah. So just label everything. I had LPG as well, so there's a whole lot to be decommissioned. I haven't decommissioned all of it yet, but we'll get there. And also there was a heap of extra plumbing, which not required because it went to, you're probably getting dizzy watching me, it went to the converters for the what was that, gas research. Like I said, good system. I got nothing against this product, it's really good, but LPG is dying. We've lost our car industry, as everyone knows, and Ford and Holden made LPG cars, and I think Toyota even released some out of factory, and they're all cabs, of course. A lot of people bought them private, particularly the Ford LPI, I think it was, but at the end of the day, LPG is falling over. So I'm not going to sell that, I'm going to keep it, because my lesson in life is what is old becomes new again, so you never know. So I'll just keep that, and no point selling it. I'm not going carburation, like I said, definitely going fuel injection on this car. But anyway, we're down to that, so I just got to get some muscle power. I don't want to rip the gearbox out with the engine. Maybe I should, I don't know, I'll have to have a bit of a think. But what else? Water pump, I'm going to bin that. Some of the bolts going through it, gee, they were just corroded. I thought I was going to snap one off on the block, but I didn't. That's about it. So good visual progress anyway. I had a boss like that years ago, like that. Last thing he put on the aeroplane was a prop, because he thought the job was done. You could have 6 cylinders missing off the engine, but anyway, another story. All right, rock and roll. Well, there we are. Engine's out. So just a few things, I guess. Got to take the extractors off, got to take the flywheel off, and that's the first time this will get used in anger. Again, I bought these as a job lot from Super Cheap. They had a catalogue sale, and just thought it was too cheap to ignore, and I'm just glad I've done that. Instead of scrapping around later. I bought them years ago. In fact, I bought them 4 years ago, knowing that I'd do this one day. Clutch is a twin plate on this one, and a point of interest, because I've got a fair bit wrong on this. The clutch is pretty good, except the fingers. Flip it over, as you can see, a fair bit of wear. That's because I have set this thing up wrong. Now, the T5 is a bit of a problem child if you're using an old school clutch actuator, which I am. So this is a Dello housing. It's nice and light, as you can see. Dello, I don't know if they even make them anymore, not sure. So this is the old school, if you've seen an old you know, single rail setup, this is one of those. In fact, I've replaced this with a new one. This is a new arm, and I'm actually want to get rid of it altogether, because I think the BA, I'm pretty sure I'm right, the BA manual gearboxes were a T5, even the turbo, the V8s weren't. No, that's, we had a BA GT back in the day. So, bent the tabs on my bloody gearbox switch. Now the problem is this little item here, and I've actually replaced this, and I actually got the part from Ford, believe it or not, and it wasn't even that dear, believe it or not. But this is what causes the problem with trying to set the clutch up. as you can see, that's all gone really porous because it's aluminium. So you've got a steel bearing and you can see it's gouging it, right? And it digs in. Steel and aluminium soft and it creates friction. And I could never get a smooth clutch action with this gearbox, and that's why. So the BAs have got, can't remember the name of them, but it's a hydraulic assembly that sits on here and just expands out rather than a levering action. So I know there's a few gearbox suppliers that do this sort of stuff, but I was hoping just to get a standard BA one. And then just go to NZ, one of the hydraulic places, get a hydraulic line set up and get rid of that arm. And I should be able to adapt it to work just fine, which means I can get rid of the little actuator that's down at the bottom of this thing. Can't remember what car this guy, I bought this from a gearbox bloke back in the day, and he made up a mount for it. So I had it properly certified when the car was in Queensland. I'll probably have to get it done here again, New South Wales. Not sure how that works down here, but anyway. And this is the mount here. Pretty clever little design. As you can see, he's got his diff conversions. That was his name, Sydney. And he's got the centre of an original one, cut it out, and then modified the old one and just welded it in. So he's used two to make one because the T5 sits just that much further back. It's not much, that's a C4 or a, sorry, not a C4, that's a single rail. And of course you've got different mount holes on the car as well, for whether it's an automatic or a manual from memory. I could show you that later. There's two mount holes in the chassis. But yeah, so that's the mod for the crossmember. Great little bit of kit. So given that's all done, I know T5s have got limited horsepower rating, but I'm not going to stroke this motor. So I'm just going to use the original crank, possibly the original rods. I will I'll put a roll cam in it, and that's more about efficiency and longevity than anything else. We'll change that bearing because that's knackered. That is just knackered. Look, living in the tropics, wow, just corroded everything. What else are we going to do to it? Just new pistons, and they're just going to be hypertechnic, nothing, not going forged. And the heads, I'm just going to port match. I'm keeping these extractors. A set of Lukey's here, they're all right. And they were customised. You can see they're not the same length. All right, so that they were customised to create a 2.5 inch exhaust system. So they cut them at a point where they're 2.5 inch, and then welded the flange on. That was Western Sydney back in the day. It was years and years and years ago before we moved to Queensland. And I'll keep the original exhaust system and replace from mufflers back because it's knackered. So that's that. I don't see the point in throwing Daisy out with the dishwater. I just don't. So I'll port match to these headers and then manifold to the inlets. The heads have already got roller rockers. Look, these things have not done 10,000k. They're a set of gems. There's no work done to them, but they are new guides, new valves, hardened seats. So I'll pull them apart again, and I'll just replace the valve stem seals, lap them back down, and I'll go through all that later. And I've never port and polished them in my life. I've learned off YouTube, hence that's why I'm doing this. You know, people have taught me a lot on video, so I'm just hoping to give something back. This worked like a charm. 50 bucks, whatever it costs. Bargain. Evil Bay. Yeah, so engine out. So now you can see the cross member. Where's my torch? There's a torch. And you can see the shit ass welding, or just swash and swear, that I paid a bloke to do. And you can see that the cross member is bent. So I've got a new section to go in, the new piece underneath here. I'm going to straighten that out. I may have to get a whole new piece yet. I don't know. I'm hoping just to straighten it and put the new piece with the reinforcer in underneath it. What are we noticing here? Oh, that's badly, I'm glad we're seeing that. So that hydraulic line's going to have to be replaced. That's badly worn through. That would have gone. And that thing there, the bloody power steering box. That has not done 50,000 k. See, it's got an overhaul sticker there, and it's already got too much free play in it. I've still got to work out fun tickets. You know, no one's got fun tickets that are just unlimited. So I've just got to have a real think whether I, you know, with the engine out, I just really want to go down the road of a rack and pinion setup, and I just got to equate or work out whether it's worth the money. I'm sure RRS are going to tell me yes, it's worth the money, and they're probably right, especially with the engine out, because we can just bolt the thing in apparently. So I'm still undecided on that one, but certainly that one's got to be at least replaced. And like I said, this car has done 50,000 k with that box, and it's really no good. You can't adjust them. So not like the old manual ones. And I'm keeping power steering, so just we'll see. We'll clean the engine bay up, take the tray out, all the wiring out, take the brake booster out, and the master cylinder. As you can see, it's been weeping. That's because it's knackered. So there is a guy I found that exchanges them. You can get a brand new one cheaper than the exchange, but they're a Chinese copy. Is that a problem? I don't know. Probably not. Probably being oversensitive for no reason there. Anyway, so glad that's out now, because we can get on, clean this out, and get in and see what we're really dealing with here. So I'm surprised to see those hydraulic lines there knackered. Glad we've got this far. So all right, I need something to eat. I'm starving. So there's Tyson. Tyson's never torn an engine down in his life, so Tyson's going to tear this thing down. Just thought I'd go through something. Sort of does my head in as you know, an aircraft engineer is what I do for a real living. Is firing order of car engines. So front to rear, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the far corner. If it was an aircraft engine, it wouldn't be like that. If it was like home, it'd be 1, and that'd be 2, 3, 4, because that makes sense. If it was Continental, it'd be back the other way. But anyway, car engines, right bank, 1 to 4, left bank, 5 to 8. So what I'm going to get them to do now is rip the inlet manifold out, and you'll be much use of rattle gun, which will entertain him no end, and we'll pull the heads off. So on with that. Okay, quick update. So I've cut out, he said, rusted member out of the Radiator cross member. And so what I've done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bash this flat. But before I've done that, I've cut some slots here. So I can't press things, so I'll just weld these slots back together on the new piece. But in other words, it'll give me a pattern that I can make out flat, and then I can just seam weld that back in, and then I'll be able to get a better reference on the piece of paper for a template or a bit of cardboard, whatever we use, to mark where my fold line's going to be. So, and then I can use the anvil just to create a bit of a bend. I'll probably put a bit of aluminium like that on the anvil, and the reason for that is just so you're not doing a sharp edge. So if you're bending it over that, I might even do it in the vise yet, bending it over a soft piece of aluminium, you'll get more of a rounded corner rather than a sharp edge. You know, anyone who's used a folding machine will know that trick, so it's nothing new. So how's Tyson going? Well, all right. First engine he's done in his life. We found that, where's that bit of seal marks? Oh, so this engine did have a bit of a starting smoke issue, and that would be the problem there. So one of the valve stem seals on this head has obviously failed. So, you know, even though That wouldn't have done 10,000 k, but it's old. So the engine just hasn't done much work since it was redone, or the heads were done. So the heads are, like I said, pretty new. So there's Yellowtail roller rockers, and Tyson's diligently marking everything. So, you know, inlet exhaust, so he's marking all the rockers, and he's going to put it into the appropriate rocker head, and that's all marked. It's just good practice. You could probably slap it all back together, but you know, I'd assumed that these bearings on these roller rockers have bedded into the top of the valves, so I just want to keep everything exactly the way it was. Interesting, look at that. That's really good. That shows you how good roller rockers are, by the way. So again, they've done about 10,000, these roller rockers, and there's not a mark on the top of those valves, so that's really good. And it had a hard life. Like, I did more track work with this thing than driving it, really. Fun and safety days up there in the tropics. So that's good to see. So we shouldn't need to do anything but lap these valves in. I'm going to have machine work done at the base of the spring, so we can facilitate double valve springs, because this thing's got spring and dampener setup, not double valve springs. So I'm going roller cam, and therefore we need double valve springs, as Crow have advised me, and I'll take their advice as gospel. What else? No, that's about it. So he's proceeding on. Recording? Well done, Tyson. All right, Tyson's going to bring the camera in here. So we'll pull the sump out, and it wasn't just that little piece of valve stem seal that let go. The thing had obviously, over the years, has just perished. It looks pretty scary. It was all, most of this actually was also in the wire mesh for the oil pump, but yeah, it just all breaks up. So it had really caused some swarf, and really don't want that flying around the engine anyway, so obviously we're going to clean it out. But yeah, that's how much those valve stem seals had just failed. They've just rotten. So whether they're a crap brand or, can't remember. I don't think I changed them actually. I didn't, because they came with the heads. So when I put the valve springs on, so I don't know. But we have got this. That's interesting. And that to me looks like half of the dowel pin from the distributor, or an old distributor. When I put the have a look at that, see where that's come from, but I'm pretty sure that looks like the dowel pin that holds the gear on the distributor. And whether that's old or not, because this thing had a new distributor on it, I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll get to the bottom of it. But yeah, all the net here, you can still see stuff coming out of it. So the oil pump screen has done her job and picked up all that crap. So I can't even get it out. I'll get it out with a screwdriver later, but yeah. So, but yeah, just looking at that, it's the only place I can think in the engine where that is. So we'll get to the bottom of that and see what actually happened. The distributor's up on the mezzanine, so I'll pull it down, see what it's showing me. It could have been there from moons ago too, so anyway, we'll see. But apart from that, everything else looks pretty good in this motor. We took the lifters out before, and Tyson, I'll show you these while we're here. Yuck. Let's take them all out. And so these are done about 10,000. They did come from Crow, as the cam did, and look at that, there is not a mark. That is just perfect. So pretty happy with that. They're not going to go back in. I'll unsell this, or a Gumtree or whatever, eBay, I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to unsell the cam and the lifters, because I'm going to put a roller cam in this engine. So yeah, thanks for filming, buddy. Next. Righto, so Tyson got the good job. Smile. So it's coming up nice and clean, he's doing a great job. Nothing much to report there, but there's all the lifters laid out, all the roller rockers laid out. We'll put that up on the mezzanine today. Sump's all been cleaned out on the inside. So now it's got to pull a harmonic balancer off. Not sure if I'm going to replace the twin rake. Again, I'm fairly certain I replaced that when I did the camshaft, and the camshaft I did in cans. Try and remember. I'm pretty sure that hasn't done about 5,000 k tops. It really hasn't, because the car was only a club car at that point, so it wasn't driven every day. So anyway, we'll get that done. Same with the crank and rod bearings. I'll put new ones in, but they were new ACL race series. They're just not that old, but well, we'll bin them and put new ones in. But she's coming up all right. Tyson's done a great job. Now, over the other side, mailman just came, beauty, new speedo cable. I don't think it was that much, can't remember, about 90 bucks on eBay, delivered, ripper. And so this is the radiator lower cross member. So basically she's done. So I'll just sand that down now, and I'll use the holes for weld fill like I've done with the cross member. In fact, I'll drill a couple of holes in here for the same purpose. So they're the old spot weld holes, obviously. And we've got nice new metal in there where once we had that. And then we've got to make up a new one of those. So I'll get onto it now and grind that down, get the harmonic balancer off for Tyson, and he can pull all the rods and the crankshaft out of the block. Cool. So Tyson's taking the cover plate off, and apologies, I meant to show removal of the harmonic balancer and using a puller for that. There's probably plenty of other YouTube videos on that anyway. So you would expect that the cog for the cam set or the cam chain set would come off by hand, but you know, you'll get a burr here and there. So you know, there's probably people out there screaming saying this isn't the way to do things. Well, it's not a bad way. So just application of a 3-pin puller, and the only caution I'm just saying here is just go steady. So wouldn't apply a rattle gun to that, for example. Would be Tyson.
No, just hammer.
Just that? No, yeah, no, we don't hammer. Tyson's favourite tool is a hammer. Okay, so just to show you just how easy it was in the end. Very little torque, and that's pulling it off nice and easy. And so I've just got it into the first side of the cog. I probably could have used the other teeth, but you know, what's the difference between that cog and that cog? It's not in there real tight at all. If you wouldn't want to do it if it's real tight, unless you're going to bin the cam set now, or the chain set, I beg your pardon. This is a JP set from memory, and again, it hasn't done much use at all. I don't know if I'm going to bin it or not. I might sell the cam and lifters and chain as a package. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but that's done the job, and Tyson should be able to lift that off by hand now.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. You might have to get her. Yeah, there we go. And off she comes.
Doesn't help when the engine stand has wheels.
No, and this one here, it's just set so we don't. That's probably what's caused the problem. This has got a couple of marks on it, but it's not one that's got the 9 keyway. It's only a 3 keyway. So I have not on a car engine dialed a camshaft in. I haven't dialed an aeroplane engine camshaft either. That said, we do use a dial, a 360-degree dial for checking timing on those things. Very similar practice, but you're not using I've got to get this right now, a micrometer to hold, not a micrometer, what's the word? Dial gauge on the piston to absolutely confirm one where the piston is, and then another one to confirm where the cam is lifting, make sure it's all lined up and all that sort of stuff. But you do a similar sort of thing on aeroplane engine, but it's not relevant to this. The point is, this gives you, from memory, 4 degrees plus or minus. You can see it's got a minus or a plus, or just simply top dead center. I might get a 9 keyway one yet, but when I spoke to Crow, when I installed this cam, and I spoke to them the other day at the Summernats, their opinion was that you shouldn't need to dial their cams in, and they actually dial in a bit of I can't remember now, it was negative or positive 2 degrees, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure I'm going to do yet. Certainly if you want to get absolute accuracy of crank to camshaft position, then sure, you'd be using a 9 keyway, you'd be using a dial gauge, you'd be using a 3/6 screw wheel, and you'd be making it bang on. But my simpleman's opinion is, as soon as you get a growth in that cam chain, where is that? You get a bit of flop in that. Well, you've probably lost your degree you dialed anyway, because these things stretch, and that's life. So, just my opinion, there's probably plenty of commentators out there, but this isn't a race engine. You know, so, you know, it's worked just fine as it is. So, and the ones that come out of factory, if anyone you ever saw one of the mesh chains, they, I reckon you get 4 degrees slip in those things. Oh, Barry Crocken. But anyway, that's that. So, I'll get Tyson out to undo the bolts to retain the cam position, and again, to gently remove the cam, and then he'll undo the con rods, and this thing will be stripped down to a bare block today. Cheers. On you, Tyson.
Cheers.
I hit the button. No need to film at the moment, but I'm doing it just because I just want to show how good this little sucker is. This little Azito rattle gun. The last 2 bolts, go for it, Tyson. Yeah. They haven't been touched. That's how they were, and they were torqued up in situ when I did it. He's just ripped them out. Same for everything else. Yeah, it did most of the head bolts. A few of them needed some help, but yeah, overall, that little thing is just amazing. Anyway.